Welcome back to my channel, everybody. So today I have the Lamzu Maya X review. This is the Fanatic version. It comes in orange. Lamzu does sell other colors as well. They have a purple shadow, a cloud gray, a white one, a charcoal black one. However, I did like this design the best, so I opted to choose it when I was purchasing the mouse. Unfortunately though, it took forever to get here. I think I had this on order probably more than a month and a half ago, maybe a month ago. But yeah, it took quite a while to get here, whereas, you know, other customers, they're receiving the standard version of the Maya X a lot sooner than I was with this version. But, you know, I think it was worth it. I do like the design of this mouse. And yeah, the extra weight was worth it. I wasn't really in a rush to receive it. But more about this mouse. It also has a Lamzu custom encoder. It has Nordic 52840 MCU, PixArt 3950 sensor, and the dimensions are 124 by 64 by 40 millimeters. So this is slightly bigger than the regular Maya. I don't have the regular Maya for comparison, but it's just slightly smaller than this one is. And you can look up the dimensions if you're curious. Another thing this offers is an Omron optical switches now for both of these. So there's, you know, there's not going to be any worry about double clicks with these, especially if you're slamming. You get slam clicks like you do with the regular mechanical mice. These opticals are not really prone to that. So you really don't have to worry about slam clicks and double clicks with this. In addition, this has 8K polling, and as I mentioned, it comes with a wireless dongle now. And let me just pull out the wireless dongle. It looks like this. I don't have the paracord attached, but I'll show that here in a second. But this is their 8K dongle that they offer with the mouse. And obviously this is the Fanatic version, so it comes in orange. Other things about this mouse, it includes PTFE feet, as you can see on the bottom. They're actually really good. They're one of the best feet, I would say, out of most mice that I've tested stock out of the box. You know, Viper V3 also has some pretty good ones. Let me bring that up here in a second here. So these are the Viper ones. These are full skates, as you can see on the bottom. These are also really good, and they glide really well on this mouse pad, as do these. So yeah, great job by Lamzu there. The coating for this mouse is really good. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's miles better than the Superlight 2. As you can see here, the Superlight 2, the coating's so bad that actually I had to put on grips on this thing, because one time I was gaming with this and I was flicking really quickly, and I actually lost control of this and it ended up on the floor. Just because the coating sucks so bad on the Superlight 2. I've never been a fan of Logitech's coatings. However, the leading mouse, I would say, that's followed up from Superlight 2, that's now gaining attention on the market, is the Razer Viper V3 Pro. This mouse in particular has a better coating than the Lamzu does. It grips my fingers better. When I hold on to it, like, I'm barely touching the mouse right now, and I mentioned this in a review video of this as well. It's just holding on to my fingers. This one does a good job as well, but it's not as grippy as the Razer Viper one is, but it is a really good coating nonetheless. So yes, it is one of the better coatings that you'll get on mice out there. It's certainly better than the Final Mouse coating. The Final Mouse coating, you know, because it's got these honeycombs on the side, and I know the new competition one has a solid side, so you're maybe able to hold on to it better, but this is the ULX Tiger. Otherwise identical to the competition, except they made some, you know, changes to it, and they've added solid sides. But yeah, it's Final Mouse. They're always tweaking these designs of their ULX. But nonetheless, I think this mouse is definitely better than the Tiger. So this is the Maya X box. That's what it looks like. So when you open it up, you see that the mouse is just right inside of here. So there's not really much to see, you know. You see the mouse is in here, and then here's the paracord that I was talking about. And this is actually a really nice cord, you know, compared to most mice. And you can see the ferrite core here too for signal integrity. So yeah, this is an excellent cord. I'm probably gonna end up using this. I was just using the other one temporarily, but yeah, this is a great cord that they included. So here's the stickers that you get with it, and they also include some grips here with it, as you can see, some extra skates, standard fare I think with most high-end mice. But considering this is a $120 price tag, I think they did a good job for value wise. You know, more stickers. Here's the Fanatic sticker. So I don't think you could get this obviously with the Lamzu version. So the Fanatic version has this. It features Fanatic. So it's kind of a nice touch. But yeah, that's pretty much the unboxing that you get with this mouse. I didn't really want to spend a lot of time with unboxing. I feel like they'll just eat up unnecessary time that I could be spending on the review of the mouse. So I opted not to do an unboxing video this time. This mouse also weighs 47 grams. And we can actually go ahead and test that right now. So Lamzu claims 47, and that's exactly what the mouse is. It's 47.25 on my scale. So more or less what they claim is what you get with this mouse. So it's a very accurate reading. Unlike some mice companies out there that have, you know, claimed a certain weight about what their mice is going to be, and then they tend to revise it a couple months later. If you guys know who I'm talking about, I don't really need to mention their name. But anyhow, I want to talk about the build quality of this mouse, and we can segue into that right now. How did they achieve 47 grams? Well, you can see in the bottom of the mouse right here, you know, it's pretty much hollow. You can actually touch this PCB. Let me make sure I have it off, but yeah, I can reach right in and I can touch the soldering, you know, for the switches. I wouldn't worry about it. They've got waterproof coating on the PCB, so don't worry about any liquids getting in there, and dust is really not going to get in there. I've been using this thing for about a week and a half now, maybe longer, and I haven't noticed, you know, much dust buildup. You can see a little bit here, but not really much to be worried about. And you can just kind of use compressed air. Now, you might be wondering, well, was there any structural compromise by them doing this? I would say maybe there was. And the reason I say maybe is other reviewers and users have noted that when they hold this from the side, it's not very obvious, but like when they pick it up, they'll feel a creak. I haven't had that with this copy. And I actually went on the Lamzu Discord and I spoke to other owners of this mouse, and several of the newer batches have not noticed that. So I don't know if it was an earlier batch that had this issue, but this one has no creaking, and I'm squeezing this pretty hard right now and there's no creaking at all. So structurally, I would say this thing is fine. You know, even though it's got the hollowed out bottom, it's totally fine. There's no issues with this at all. There's no point in me pressing down the middle here, but yeah, nonetheless, look, there's no structural compromise with me even pushing down here. So it's a solid mouse. I have no complaints about it. I want to go ahead and bring up the click sounds for you guys so you can listen to how they sound, and then you can get an impression of what you think. So now that you've heard the click sounds, you can see that they sound pretty decent. I do think because of the hollowness of this shell, there's a little bit, you probably heard it in the sound as well. There sounds kind of pingy, especially when it's down on the mat and I press down. Now I will say with as a caveat, you don't hear this when you're gaming because you have headsets on. Even right now, you know, if I click this, I don't hear the pinginess of the springs, but with a mic so close, you probably picked up on some of the pinginess. I can assure you, you're not going to notice that in real world use. It's just the nature of recording click sounds when you have a microphone nearby. It'll pick up more detail than your ears would, but they are fairly accurate at what you're getting with this mouse. You know, the scroll wheel, it sounds a little bit hollow, I would say, and grindy. You know, the stepwise functions for the scroll wheel are good. That shouldn't be an issue. You know, the steps are really good. The encoder, the Lamzu encoder works phenomenally well. The clicks are solid. They're not too soft. They're not too hard. They're just about the right amount of force, I'd say, but it does sound a little bit grindy, you know, compared to, let's say, if I bring up this, for example, the BeastX. You know, the original BeastX actually had a terrible wheel, but they improved on it. They put a rubber one in, and just by changing it to rubber, this is just a nice, soft, stepwise feel. So this has a slightly better wheel than the Lamzu does. Not to say that this is a bad one, but it just sounds, because of the hollow nature of this mouse, and because of the fact that, you know, it's not metal, and, you know, this is, you can feel a little bit of grindy noise to this, and it reverberates inside the shell too when you move it up and down really quickly. And you probably picked up on that during the click sound video as well. Now, as far as the clicks themselves, as you've heard, they sound pretty solid. The tensioning for M1 and M2 is really good. You know, there's a little bit of pre-travel as I push down, and a little bit of post-travel afterwards as well. But, you know, I've said this in previous videos as well, that a good mouse will have some post-travel. You don't want something that's going to instantly click and then not have any post-travel afterwards. It can just mess up the timing in video games when you play, especially shooters. Yeah, I have no complaints about the force required to press down on this. The tension is perfect, and the pre and post travel is good as well. In fact, you know what? I do want to talk about gaming. We're not going to talk about it right now, but I do want to mention this. I actually use both of these mice as my primary mice. And you're probably wondering, well, why are you using two different mice at the same time? Well, you know, just pick one. Well, I'll tell you why. So even though they have very similar dimensions and even shape, as you can see, and we'll show you guys the shape comparisons here in a second. The reason I alternate between both of these is just because of the grip style. Now my hand is 23 by 13 centimeters. I mentioned this in previous videos as well, but now if you're curious, that's the size of my hand. So I have a fairly large hand. I play via claw grip and fingertip grip sometimes, and that's what this mouse is designed for. Actually, you know, you can alternate between claw grip and fingertip. That's the optimal grip for this mouse as well, and Lamzu even talks about that. But anyhow, the reason I alternate between these is because the BeastX has these grills. You see these slits on the side? A lot of people hate this, right? I don't. So when I want to like really control something and just have minor, like small flicks, I'll use this mouse, for example, in the finals more often than not. This mouse I tend to use more in Warzone. I don't know why, but for some reason solid sides work better for me in Warzone versus the the perforated sides that the B-Stacks had. So yeah, I alternate between these depending on which game I'm playing. I think those of you who have multiple mice or even might have the B-Stacks Max, you're probably going to find yourself alternating between these two as well in different games, because they tend to work better in one game versus the other. But that's just personal experience. If you guys have a different experience, let me know in the comments, because I'm actually curious of how you guys use these mice, if you have both of them and what you think. Or if you even have the Viper V3 Pro. You know, because this one is longer, I initially liked this mouse quite a bit. You know, it is a little bit heavier than those, but weight was never an issue for me. But I found, because I grip a certain way, these two just work really goddamn well for me. I would even say the final mouse works equally well, not equally well, not as good because it's not as grippy as I mentioned, because the honeycombs on the side, it's a little bit more slippery, so I don't like it as much. But you know, these two just work perfectly for almost every shooter I play. This one's a little bit long. You know, the Viper V3 is, I think once they come out with a mini that's shorter than this one is and more comparable to these two are going to be facing stiff competition from Razer. But yeah, that's the reason I use these. Besides that, you know, the coating is great. I can hold on to this fingertip style or relaxed claw, and it works extremely well in games. The next thing I want to talk about is shape. Now with this mouse, I would say it's kind of an in-between of the Superlight 2 and the B-Stacks Max. That's what it reminds me of. It's even really close to the final mouse, ULX Tiger. However, the ULX, as you can see in the shape comparison video coming up here, the hump is a little bit lower, and you know, the front is a little bit longer as well. But yeah, this is really close to the Superlight 2. Now let me put these side by side, and you can see just from top down. I do want to mention the shape comparisons. The top down, I forgot to take a picture of the Superlight 2, so unfortunately that won't be there. But as you can see, you know, they're really similar. Even you know, the humps are similar. This is also in the middle, but the back of this is more of a diamond shape, as you can see, of this mouse, and you'll see that in the shape comparison coming up here, whereas this has more of a rounded edge. Now the B-Stacks also has more of a rounded edge, just like the Superlight 2. And as you can see, the B-Stacks Max is also very similar to this as well, shape wise and up wise. This feels more like a potato, because if you look at the sides, they're not really tapered very much. And initially I used to like that about Superlight 2, but as I started using more mice, I realized that I actually don't like a potato shape as much as I thought I did. And actually this caused me to start having arm pain after a while when I use it, just because of its shape. So it's not a very comfortable design long term when you're playing shooters especially. Now this one is a little bit more tapered than the Superlight 2, as you can see in the bottom. Not a lot, but it makes enough of a difference where you notice it. And then obviously the B-Stacks is also tapered on the sides. These are very similar to each other. You know, if I hold them next to each other like this, you can see. And you know what? Instead of me rattling on about all the shape differences, let me just go ahead and show you guys a shape comparison video. Go ahead and check that out right now. So as you saw in the shape comparison videos, you know, these mice are all competitors of each other, and they all have very similar characteristics. Some are longer than others, some are shorter than others, Razer Viper V3 Pro being the longest one. So I feel like the Lamzu Maya X takes the best of both worlds. So it takes the best of Superlight 2, the Viper V3 Pro, and it combines it into a form factor that's just the exact right size, especially I want to say for 23 by 13 or smaller hands. If you have hands that are say 18 by 10 and up, you're gonna love this mouse, the Maya X. If you have smaller hands than that, then probably go for the smaller Maya. That'll probably be a better fit for your hands than the Maya X is. But yeah, I love this mouse. I love the grip of it. I love the weight. Okay, I know I mentioned this before, that weight's not that important to me, but over long term, you do get fatigued with a heavier mouse. I noticed that as I was using the Viper V3 Pro. I noticed it when I was using the Superlight 2, you know. After a while, 4 to 5 hours long, especially if you're clicking, you know, you're moving around a lot and you flick a lot like I do, you play games that require flick, you want a lighter mouse at the end of the day, you do. So this one has a perfect shape, it has a perfect weight, just like the BSEX Max does. This is also my, you know, favorite mouse. So both of these are tied right now as my favorite mice. They just have the right amount of weight, and the weight distribution for this mouse is also really good. Like if I hold it right here, you're gonna notice it's not tipping anywhere, right? So it's not tipping forward and backwards. As I mentioned before previously, this one tips a little bit forward, but because the BSEX Max is light enough, you don't notice it. And because this is the weight's equally distributed on this thing, it feels super light, lighter than 47 grams than it actually is. Like if I switch between the BSEX Max and this, they feel comparable in weight. Sometimes this even feels lighter to me despite being, you know, 3 to 4 grams heavier than the BSEX Max. It's just the nature of their designs. Because it's front heavy, you tend to notice it more than you do the Lamzu. And I've noticed this about the, you know, the Razer Viper V3 Pro as well, right? I said this before in previous videos. It's perfectly balanced. Even though it's a larger mouse and it weighs more, around like what, 55 grams, but it feels lighter simply because it's so big and the weight is distributed better. You know, when you don't have good weight distribution in the mouse, they tend to feel heavier, and that's just the nature of mice. Now, for example, the Superlight 2, when you take it out of the box, it feels balanced, but I made some changes to this. I took out, you know, the wireless charging, took out the puck, and because of that, this mouse became a little bit more front heavy. Weight distribution can affect how the mouse feels in your hand over extended periods of time. Now, this is obviously front heavy now because of the changes I did, but if you look at the weight now, it's 57 grams compared to 60 out of the box, right? So it's a couple grams lighter. So you would think that it's not gonna, you know, add more fatigue. And I would say overall, yes, I do feel that it's lighter, but at the same time, because it's front heavy, you notice it over time. It's harder to explain over video, but if you had all these mice in front of you, use them for several hours at a time, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those of you who do have multiple mice, leave a comment in the section, because I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. Now, this thing, you know, as we mentioned, it's 47 and it's a perfect size. The BSEX Max, you know, it's front heavy, it's 43.7 grams, but even though this is a couple grams lighter than the Lamzu, the weight distribution of this makes it feel just as light as a BSEX, if not lighter at times when I'm holding it in my hands, especially over long term when I'm gaming. Now, the final mouse, obviously this is the weight distribution on this is perfect as well. It doesn't tip. This is 39.57 grams. So this feels light the entire time. You don't get any strain with this mouse as well. Viper V3 Pro, you know, this weighs 55 grams like I mentioned, and because of the weight distribution, you don't feel the fatigue over time either. So gaming performance for this mouse has been phenomenal. I'm able to track my targets perfectly with this mouse. I'm able to flick just fine. Because the pulling is so stable and good, I don't have any wireless issues. I don't have any tracking issues. So yeah, this mouse has been great for me, and like I mentioned, it's my top mouse with the BSEX Max right now for gaming. And even if you can see in the videos here, I'm not having any issues tracking when I was playing the finals. So as you can see in the wireless performance, there's a couple drop holes that happened, but they're nothing to be concerned about. You know, that tends to happen even when you have a little bit of interference. And I do have quite a bit of mice hooked up near my desk, so that probably could have caused those few drop holes that happened, but otherwise I wouldn't worry about it. The next thing I want to talk about is click latency. I did use XLAT to gather this data. These are optical switches. Mechanical tend to be more accurate with XLAT, so keep that in mind. However, I am pretty confident in these results. So at 8K, this got 0.385. At 1K is a little bit slower at 0.392 milliseconds. And then a 4K and 2K were actually slower than 1K. I don't know why. I repeated the test, but it is what it is. So it's 0.402 milliseconds for 4K and 0.41 seconds for 2K. So pretty much exactly the same results. But yeah, this places right at the top with the BSEX. So it's a top performing mouse. The Lamzu also has a web driver that they've dubbed Aurora. And so you go to their website and you're gonna be greeted with this nice little animated graphic, and you're gonna see your Maya X. On the bottom right, you're gonna see a receiver version and a mouse version. If you look at the screen, I also had to update the firmware for this, and it's really straightforward. Just click the button, it detects it, and you update the receiver first, and then you plug in your mouse, and then you update the mouse. And once you do that, it'll start working. You'll see your mouse pop up here. But anyway, let's get into the WebDriver real quick. It's a really simple one. So the web software is pretty simplistic. You have a macro box, customizing performance. Macro is pretty self-explanatory. You can click on the key list and you can pick which keys you want to set up a macro for. As far as the mouse goes, you can select on individual keys. For example, if I select on back, I can set up, a macro, a keyboard, DPI lock, shortcut, scroll. You have a number of options you can customize these keys with. There's also a high-speed mode. Now, when I was testing the mouse with this, I just noticed it's a battery drain. They claim it, it adds full power to the sensor and you're supposed to get better accuracy. I can't really validate that. I didn't really notice any difference, but it's there if you need it. There's also motion sync. I see no reason to turn that off, so I leave it on. There's also a factory reset button. So, if you change something and you want to go back to it, you can hit factory reset. You can also select 3 different profiles. So you can have a gaming profile, a desktop profile, and whatnot. Performance-wise, there's different DPI steps that you can set up. I've got 3 of them set up right now, between 800, 1600, and 3200. Polling rate, you can set between 1000 to 8000. Currently, I have it at 1000 just for battery conservation, but when I'm gaming, I tend to set it at 4. And it's just a matter of a click and it sets it. LOD, which is liftoff distance, is 0.7 to 1 and 2. I prefer 1, but if you want a tighter LOD, they can set 0.7. Sleep time, I tend to keep it at 5 just because I don't want my mouse shutting off when I'm just doing, browser work. But if you want to conserve battery, then you can push it down to 30 seconds and save battery. Speaking of battery, I've tested the battery at 4K and I've lasted up to 5 days with 2 to 3 hours of use every single day. So I would say, the battery time for this mouse is pretty decent. Now, I haven't done a full discharge test on this by measuring, how much it loses per hour. But if I had a ballpark, at 4K, you're probably looking at 5 to 6 days. 8K, you're probably looking at half that. So not too bad, not the best, but it's still not too bad for what it offers. So in conclusion, what do I think about this mouse? Well, I'm impressed. Lamzu's done a great job. They created a shape that I think a lot of us have wanted for a long time and the weight to go with it. I felt like I was always compromising with other mice on the market, with all of these here. I felt like there was always a compromise. Whether it was a final mouse, I always felt the hump was too low and the honeycombs on the side and the paint job being so slippery, especially the build quality. I mentioned this in my follow-up video. Look, I can still move these back and forth. And I know that with the competition and each iteration, they've made improvements to the mouse, but that doesn't fix the mouse for me, right? I bought this for quite a bit of money and I'm stuck with the design flaws that this mouse had. So that's just the nature when you buy a final mouse. Now with the Superlight 2, it's a safe design. It's a safe bet for most people. The weight is not exactly the best, being 60 grams, but it is a classic potato shaped grip that everybody likes. The coating is not very good. The side buttons are mushy, right? Whereas the side buttons for this, as you heard in the click video, are fantastic. They feel good. They have really good tensioning. Whereas, these are just mushy trash. Nobody's ever liked the Superlight 2 side buttons, and I still don't. And they're also recessed too much in my opinion. They're just not good at all, The clicks are okay for this. They're also Omron, so obviously naturally they're going to feel good, just like the Lamzu does. And just like the BeastX, these also are Omron optical, so they feel equally good. And they're also tensioned just as well as these are. They're all, really well tensioned. The scroll wheel on this is not my favorite, but it's something that I can live with and it works well in games. So I have no real complaints there. The design is fantastic. The weight is great. The weight distribution is good. The build quality is good. The 8K polling is good. The wireless performance is fantastic. And as you saw in the input latency, there's no complaints there. So, and the price is good for $120. What can you really complain about? This is a fantastic mouse. It comes with skates, comes with extra skates, extra grips. The design is nice. So yeah, I would give this a 9 out of 10. This is one of my top mice out there. And I think the competition is obviously getting different now in the mouse market, and the Razer Viper V3 Pro Mini, I think, is going to give this mouse a run for its money when it does debut. But for now, this is one of the top mice. I would say the king of mice, along with the BeastX Max, for me anyway. These are both top-notch mice, and you can't go wrong with either one. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time in the next video coming up, which is going to be the Wooting ADHE review. In that one, I'm going to be talking about what I did to the keyboard to actually make it better than it was out of the box. The out of the box experience was not so good with this one, but once I added new switches, lubed them, and did several other things to the keyboard, it's actually a much better keyboard now than it was out of the box. So we'll get to that pretty soon here. But thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you soon. Take care.